We have talked about almost every single aspect that Touhou has. We've talked about literature, the games, music CDs, novels, basically everything Touhou has ever spawned. We've been so balls deep into the story of this franchise that we've never taken a break from all of this and talked about one certain point of view there is left. And when I'm saying this is the last point of view there is, I truly mean it. We've twisted, turned, and shaped the story that Zun has laid down for us, but we've never talked about what it takes to create a story as complicated as Touhou's story. And the reason for that is that when you start to think about it, it's not a pleasant thing to think about. So now we are stepping out from the wondrous world of Gensokyo and looking at the hard reality on how it was formed and why it is the way it is currently. And since it fits to the theme of our video, I thought that I'd finally give you my true thoughts on why Mima hasn't returned and won't return. Let's start with the most basic of all questions. What is Touhou? Touhou is a video game, literature and music franchise owned by one person, Juniato, also known as Zun. He solely decides what directions the franchise takes and how it is done. A great example on this is how Touhou franchise has slowly started to spread from being solely PC exclusive to PlayStation as well. This also means that he is the one who decides how the story progresses. And what people don't usually get is that Touhou franchise is highly dependent on its story. Yes, most people play Touhou because of its challenging gameplay and top-notch music, but a game without a story or lore is just an empty husk. But the problem comes when the series starts to grow and grow and grow. Touhou franchise is currently at this phase. While the amount of circles has decreased recently, the Touhou fanbase keeps on growing and more people hop onto this bandwagon that people call fandom. Touhou isn't gonna die out anytime soon. It just recently was spread to the PlayStation so that even more people could access it. The question is, when will the Touhou franchise reach its absolute peak? When will reach the point when the fandom starts to decline rapidly? No one can say for sure. It can be another 20 years or it may very well be already in the next year. But we aren't here to talk about that. We are here to talk about how Touhou has been able to preserve itself and keep on growing while other franchises have already fallen and new ones have risen. The simple answer for this is the storytelling of the franchise. Or should we say the lack of it? Take a look at my channel. What is the thing most people are subscribed to me for? The Touhou content. And what is the most famous series on my channel? The Touhou theories. And what are we discussing in these videos? The unfinished storylines and plot holes this game series has. And there are lots of them, as you may have realized already. But that is the reason why Zun can keep coming back with always new game, comic series, CD or an art book. There are certain rules which Touhou's story follows, but only rarely there is something that would be explained to us so precisely that there wouldn't be space for changes if needed. Take for an example Remilia. Her background is really vague, if non-existent. We don't know how she came to Gensokyo in the first place, or is she the culprit behind vampire incident, and most likely we'll never know for certain. Zun has made it so that Remilia is most likely culprit, but it has never been stated directly, so he can alter it if there's a need for that. Or what about Yukari and Maribel? Zun has been spreading connections between the two for a long time already. But will we ever get to know if those two are the same person? Most likely not. For that would look another storyline. These kinds of story holes keep it so that Zun can come up with new storylines constantly. Only rarely have we had a storyline that would be locked the way it is and left with really little or absolutely no way to change it. For an example, Moko and Seiga. These plot holes and vaguenesses also make it so that people, like I, can make these so-called theory videos. Human mind is driven to fill the gaps, to make sense out of chaos. This is what keeps Touhou franchise so interesting. It is literally full of stories that have not yet ended, things that are still unclear to us. And that's how it'll stay. Let's compare Touhou franchise to currently really successful games. A great example is League of Legends. While the concepts of these two franchises are completely different, the reason why they are successful is the same. There's always something new to keep the players interested in the game. In League of Legends, it is not the story that keeps being expanded, but also the game itself. Every other week there's a new patch adding something new to the game. This works so well that League of Legends has currently the biggest player base in the world, just recently surpassing the World of Warcraft. So while the games like these keep growing and have a long lifespan, the games that limit themselves to strict storylines have notably shorter lifespan. For an example, the Sly series on PlayStation. While the game is considered as legendary among the PlayStation fans, it is almost impossible to continue the series the same way as Touhou is being continued. The story prevents it. Even though there would be players willing to play more Sly games, it is just not gonna happen. But I promised that this video would have something to do with Mima, so here you go. In the light of all of this, I'm gonna give you my own thoughts on Mima and will she ever return. The first and foremost opinion I have is that she will probably never return. No matter how much people want her to come back, it won't change the facts. We all know that there is a gap between PC98 Touhou and Windows Touhou. Zan has commented on this by saying that if those two were to be connected, the PC98 setting, story, characters and everything else would have to be altered in some way at least. And that's where Mima's return hits a wall. You see, people are in love with Mima's character. But for her to return, she should be changed a little, and I believe people wouldn't be too happy about it. Let me tell you everything we know about Mima. She's known to be very old, though her age is not known exactly. Her relation to Hakurei clan is really strong, since she states that she knows the way Hakurei orbs function and what is their true power. She also states that she can use the orbs, even though she herself states that orbs can be used only by a person who has inherited the blood of the Hakurei family. She is an evil spirit slash ghost who originally was a human. She died and now is the way she is. Her goal was to exact revenge on the human race, and to do so she needed the Hakurei orbs. Her last appearance in the games revealed that she was interested in becoming a god. That's Mima's character in a nutshell. Now let me ask you, how can you fit all of that into a character now that we are in a Windows era? Mima's character just wouldn't work. Having character that would want to get revenge on the whole human race would be just impossible to add, since no one can have a goal like that without a motive, and Mima has none. First of all, she would need a motive, which in itself would require some talented storytelling for it to not mess with the already existing story. And then there's her relation with the Hakurei clan. Everything we know about the Hakurei clan's history and the creation of the barrier kinda makes it so that Mima has no place in the Hakurei clan's history and never will. If Mima were to be included in the story, then the whole story behind the barrier and Hakurei clan would need to be reshuffled. And then there's the fact that she was planning to become a god in the ending of the Mystic Square. It just makes it too complex to be a part of the Windows lore. If Mima were to be added into the existing lore, she would need to be altered completely, or have no backstory at all, or have completely new one, and fans wouldn't like that. That's why Zun will probably never give Mima a place in the story. In contrast to Mima, it was really easy to add Yuka into the current story, since she had next to none background during the PC-98 era. And even now, the only background story she has is that she is really old. But while Mima will never return, it is possible that she is part of the story somehow. There have been number of references to PC-98 era that may or may not be about Mima. Once again, because Zun doesn't want to lock anything down to make the story as flexible as possible. But while Mima's character may be history, her legacy might still continue in the form of Yukari. Think about it. A mysterious character that has a strong relation to Hakure clan. I'm not saying that Mima and Yukari are directly connected, I'm just saying that the idea for Yukari may have come from the absence of Mima. Makes you wonder. But while Touhou continues to grow strong, I can still pretty safely assume that there will be lots and lots of topics to theorize about. And I believe it will stay that way until Touhou finally reaches that point where it is time for finally conclude the franchise and fill the plot holes. But until then, we cannot know if anything we have theorized so far will or will not be true. But that's a thing that will not be timely in a long time, since Touhou isn't showing any signs of stopping to grow. But I believe that this concludes our today's episode. While it is not pleasant to know that Mima and most other PC-98 characters will never return, it is still relieving to understand that Touhou franchise isn't gonna die off anytime soon, if Zun doesn't want it to. But once again, I have to tell you that the things said on the video are once again just theories, since we cannot know for sure what are Zun's true motives. We can only guess. But still, I'd like to ask you a question before we end this episode. If you'd get to decide what PC-98 character you'd bring back, you don't need to give any reasons on why if you don't want to. I'd just like to know what people would like to see returning. For me, I'd like to see Sariel returning. But I think that's it for now. So, like always, if you have any theory ideas, please leave them in the comments below. I'd be happy to hear them. But for now, I have to bid you a farewell. My name is Touhou, and we'll see you in the next video.